Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for attending this Governance Committee meeting on Wednesday, the 22nd of January 2025. My name is Councillor Alan Platt, and I'm Chair of this committee. Councillor Mark Clifford, to my right, is Vice Chair. Members are reminded that this meeting is being recorded and will be accessible on the Council's YouTube page. If you wish to speak at any stage, please indicate to me you wish to do so. When I invite you to speak, please turn your microphone on and turn it off when you finish speaking. Please speak clearly and do not cover your mouth when speaking to make it easier for any lip readers, and that includes me at the moment because I'm partially deaf, to understand you. Can everyone ensure their phones are turned to silent? We're not expecting a fire drill, so if the alarm sounds, please exit the way you came in and congregate in St Thomas's Square next to the police station. We will now begin the meeting. Item 1, apologies for absence.
Yes, Chair, we've had apologies from Councillor Martin and also Councillor Moss, who's been substituted by Councillor Green.
Welcome, Russ. Item 2, declarations of interests. Members are reminded of their responsibility to declare any pecuniary interest in respect of matters contained in this agenda. Does anyone have any interest to declare? Good. Item 3, the minutes of the meeting Wednesday 27th of November 2024. The minutes of the last meeting were included within the agenda papers. Are there any comments or points of accuracy to raise? Councillor Whittam.
Issues that we mentioned at the last meeting, they don't seem to have appeared on the concerns expressed over the accident statistics. Is it? All right.
I'm told it wasn't at the last meeting, it was the meeting before. Is that right? So, yeah. So,
No.
We don't have matters arising normally, do we? Councillor Snow.
Yeah, well, I think it's give apologies because I'm partly responsible for making Councillor Whittam reminded him falsely, but we were mightily disturbed by the figures and the way they related to South Ribble. So whether it becomes in your report back, whether we can have an action to audit them properly or develop a work stream to look at it so we can understand it better, because the figures were very basic and appalling.
Dawn?
Yeah, so it was at the September meeting we presented the Health and Safety annual report, and the note from the minutes was it was the resolved and that the report be noted. However, we are going to undertake the planning process for the next 6 months audit reviews. So if there's anything that members would like to be considered within the audit programme for the next 6 months, you can email me and that will be taken into consideration. I can't guarantee, depends what else comes out of the risk assessment process that we go through, that it will feature on the plan, but it will certainly be taken into consideration.
Councillor Snow.
Well, in terms of the risk assessment for the council, this is, getting this wrong can cost the council millions and reputational damage as well. And the figures were not very good at all.
Just come in on that. The item is to approve the minutes of the last meeting. The points raised relate to a different meeting. So can we first off approve the minutes of the last meeting? and Dawn will deal with whatever needs dealing with. Seconders? All in favour? The supplementary agenda pack, and Gareth will present this part. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So this is our audit findings report for 2023-24. It's a revised, updated report. Members will recall that at the last meeting in November, we brought the report and we had quite a bit of a debate and discussion around that. But at the time, there was some work that was still outstanding around the valuation of your land and buildings. So we've brought an updated report that highlights the work that's been done and the conclusions from that. That's the only change since the November report. So perhaps just draw your attention to page 130 and 131 in the pack. This is the section around the valuations work that I've just mentioned. At the bottom of the page there, we highlight some of the issues that we found during that work. And on page 131, we quantify the impact of that work. And in conclusion, we've identified some issues that has led to a potential projected understatement of the land and buildings valuations in total of £805,000. Earlier in the report, we highlight what our materiality threshold is, which is just short of £1 million. So obviously that potential adjustment is below our materiality threshold. So we have no concerns that the land and buildings valuation is materially understated. We highlight obviously the findings there. And later on in the report, in Appendix D, where we highlight any unadjusted misstatements, those issues are highlighted at the back of the report because management have chosen not to amend for those, which is obviously within their remit to do. I wasn't intending to go through the report in any further detail other than to say that we're just doing our final review now of the work, and we're absolutely confident that we'll sign off the statements ahead of the February backstop deadline. But happy to take any questions. Thank you.
I know you're not speaking for the council, are you? But why did the council not choose to change the mistake that was made in the valuation? I know it's below material in, the level of materiality, but isn't there something to learn from that mistake?
I think the point in terms of the account is, there you go. It is an estimate at that point in time, so it is a valuer's estimate at that point in time. They will change again this year. So in order to make a change to the accounts, it can be significant amount of work to kind of work through all those extra tables. And for the amount, as it doesn't have an impact at all on the council budgets, it is purely an accounting estimate and judgment. As it's below materiality, we don't choose to revisit all of the accounts and statements and bring those back to committee. If it was a material issue, we would absolutely bring it back to committee. But also, if it was something that materially impacted the actual council's day-to-day finances, we would absolutely make that change. I think it is because it's based off the valuer's estimates. They will change over time.
Any more questions for Gareth? Okay, well, that item was for considering and noting, so we'll take the report as noted and we'll move on to the next item, which is item 5, the Internal Audit Interim Report, pages 9 to 96 in your meeting papers, and presumably Jackie and Dawn will be presenting this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so the report provides you information of the work that's been completed by the internal audit team up to December 2024. We're asking members to note the position in relation to our internal audit plan, and additionally we need your approval to defer the Treasury Management Review until 25-26. The audit plan for the last 6 months, you'll be aware we do operate 2 6-monthly plans. So they provide 131 days of audit work and 108 and a half respectively. So we have 239.5 audit days available for Chorley Council. In Appendix A, we've given you a good snapshot of our overall progress that we've made to date, and we provided you with the assurance rating for each of the completed reviews, which are also summarised in the table below at 9. We've given you the assurance rating for each review and the respective appendix where you can find full details of the review we conducted. Table 11 provides you with a bit of a summary as well about our progress to date with regards to assurance ratings awarded this year. So no full, 3 substantial, we've had 2 adequate reviews and 3 limited. And you can see from the table below that we've agreed follow-up actions for all our limited and other reviews, and we're quite confident that the progress that management are making on those follow-ups are good. The table at 13 is going back further. So this is previous plans prior to the current year. It gives you an indication of the number of actions we actually agreed for each of these and where we are with them. So it's quite a good picture where you can see that the majority of the actions are implemented. If there's a few remaining, they are actually in progress. So yeah, it's just given a good picture really that our actions are taken seriously and that they're largely being implemented within the timescales that we agreed at our closure meetings. We'd like you to approve an amendment to our plan where we'd like to defer the Treasury Management Review. There's been a key member of staff that we've lost in that team, and we prefer to defer the review until the recruitment exercise is undertaken. It's envisaged that we'll be able to complete this review in Q1 for the next year's plan, so it's only a slight delay. The Director of Finance doesn't have any concerns about the delay to this review, and the Head of Audit doesn't have any concerns either. There was sufficient work for her to undertake her internal audit annual opinion. Just to give you a little bit of history about Treasury Management, we did look at it 2 years ago and it got a substantial rating. And we also did a cash flow forecasting review last year, which also would normally form part of our Treasury Management, and there was no issues with that there. So that's just giving you a bit of background as to why we're not immediately concerned by delaying that review by a few months. From a resource point of view, we lost a member of staff who retired in September, but we're delighted to announce that we've recruited a new trainee auditor and they joined the team in December. So we now have a fully staffed team again. We've also had to take consideration of training needs within our plan as well for the new trainees. So the number of audit days we have available are reflective of our training requirements as well in that regard. So what's new for us is the changing global standards going forward. So this quarter is quite an important quarter for Dawn and myself as we're preparing for changes that the new standards will mean for us. So the global standards have already taken effect, but we comply with the public sector version of these standards, and these will take effect for us within from April going forward. We've attended lots of seminars and things from SIPFA, so we've got a good idea of what changes are needed, and we'll be looking to do that within the next quarter. So there may be further updates that we'll bring to committee with regard to the impact that this may have on yourselves. So you've got a good understanding as well about what these changes mean for us. So that's my review in summary. If you have any questions about, and also about the reports we have attached, I'm happy to help. Any further questions?
Thanks, Jackie. Any questions from members of the committee? Councillor Clifford.
Oh, thanks, Chair. Yes, just a comment. I'm glad you've mentioned the the Global Internal Audit Standards, or GIAS as I called them before. So yeah, I mean, we're going to be discussing training later and the effectiveness of the governance committee, but it's always good to get briefings on new standards coming in. So if we can add that into some training for members as well, that would be great. Thank you.
Any more questions or observations from members of the committee? No. Could we possibly have a little more a flesh on the bones regarding the fuel management report that you provided?
Yes, so the fuel management report was completed earlier in the year, and unfortunately we were due to have Chris, the head of service, today to give us a better idea about how he's progressing with his actions. I've had a check on our risk management system, and there has been a few of the actions completed already, so we can see that there's been some progress, but a number of the actions aren't yet due. So we'll be checking in with Chris in the next few months to make sure that he is where he should be with the actions, and if committee would like, we can bring a follow-up review back to the next meeting and give you a bit more of an overview of, just to give you that assurance that the follow-ups are being done.
Thanks, Jackie. I think, as I mentioned before, it sort of stuck out a mile. Having a full list of limited. Just one other thing. Sorry, Councillor.
Is it appropriate to be able to invite him to come to committee when he is available to talk on the matter, like you say, he was due anyway? Be really appreciated. Thank you.
Just ill at the moment, so yes, we can bring him back to the next committee, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in on the fuel report. I thought it was a bit of a disastrous report myself. Everything about it seemed to be, doesn't work, management actions, health and safety actions, the whole gambit about the fuel storage and the way that it's managed. And I noticed, I think it's done every 5 years, and whether that's appropriate.
As Dawn explained earlier, we do a review, so we risk assess what services are going to be in the internal audit plan. So we hadn't reviewed that one for over 5 years. It hadn't met the criteria to reach the plan. So potentially, sorry?
Was that COVID?
Oh, and the COVID as well, yeah. Yeah, that which would have delayed the review. So potentially that period of time, yeah, things may have slipped.
Just come back, please. I noticed that because you're actually going to be moving premises, that you'll be reviewing what happens at the new location, and I think the people who will be managing that are property services and the head of street scene and waste, and are they fully on board with all the legislation, etc., that they'll need to implement for the relocation, given what's happened at the current?
There's a project group for the relocation of the depot, which meets regularly, and Chris, the head of service, he's regularly attending that group. So yes, the results of this review will feed into that group, so they know what the requirements are in the new site.
They're all on track, are they?
Yes, 4 have been completed. 4 actions I know for definite have been completed. There's 4 that we've not had an update for, with Chris not being available, and the majority of them are still forward dated. So we would naturally check in with that in the next couple of months to make sure that they're on track.
Yeah. Councillor Clifford.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just obviously the CCTV as well. You know, we do have quite a lot of limited assurances there. I'm just wondering, I can see Gail Wooten is on the call, if she'd just like to give us some further information, please, on that.
I'm happy to do so, Chair, but I think it's probably more appropriate that I bring in Alan Core, who's the Head of Operational Assets, who manages the CCTV team and is much closer to the detail around the assurances that members of the committee might be seeking. So I'll ask Alan to join in.
Yes, afternoon all. Yeah, happy to give you an update. So a couple of things was just some misinterpretation of the report, but for some clarification, it's the MPPV2 vetting that they require, and all the staff have that, and all new staff are only onboarded once that's been undertaken. That normally takes a 6-week process, and we've recently recently onboarded some new staff that have that. We've looked at the training requirements for some of the staff, which is the SIA training, and the first wave of staff have been booked on for March, with all new staff to be onboarded with that process and implemented. That there was an issue with the signing procedure for data protection, because it was a paper-based format and we struggled to evidence it. So we've now integrated it into the digital signing process at the DLP when you visit reception, and then that automatically saves an electronic format of that, and then we'll save a PDF format of that for our own files. So then we've got evidence. We've implemented a training matrix so that all new staff that are onboarded undertake sufficient training for that specific control room, and that's already been executed. So it's quite a lot of work that's been done, and a lot of the assurances have already been completed. So
Thanks, Alan. Councillor Green.
Yeah, excuse my lack of experience on this committee. Obviously, just stepping in, I've just had a chance to read the health and safety side of this stuff. Just in terms of a clarification, so there's some dates there saying about December 24 for risk assessments, and that have those risk assessments been completed? And also, for any kind of exposure to hazards, have anybody that's going to be exposed to hazard in the current period of time had appropriate training, been provided with appropriate PPE, and the training and the like at this moment in time? Because if they haven't, that's potentially exposing us to a risk should an accident occur.
Thanks, sir.
Can I just double check what report you're referring to, please? If you have a look at the dates within the action plan, only the actions that are due before the end of December have been implemented in full. So if it's not yet due, we've not yet followed it up. And this is where perhaps Chris could put a bit more meat on the bones when he comes to the next meeting about the actions that have been taken. We can only give assurance at this stage that any actions due up to the end of December have been implemented in full.
Let's come back there, Chair. So in terms of when's the next meeting scheduled for? Yeah, my concern is that, if there's, I can understand where people might not be involved in the process directly, but in terms of anybody that is going to be in potential harm's way at this moment, up until there, will be at risk. I mean, it's one of my bags for living, health and safety. So I just wonder whether, in terms of going back to Chris or as one of his deputies, just to make sure that anybody at the moment is exposed as a minimum is provided with the appropriate PPE and training as a interim measure until you've got everybody rolled out. So again, if there was an accident to happen, if they hadn't been provided with training or PPE and that, then potentially we could be exposed to a significant liability there if anybody was to take us to court. So as an interim measure, I would just recommend that anybody exposed would be at the immediate time that is provided with a minimum training and PPE.
So the health and safety actions identified in the action plan were all dated December 24. So they're the actions that have been implemented in full. Yes. Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor. Any more questions, observations, Councillor Hayden?
Could I ask a general question about the cyber security? I know we've got a person on board and policy, etc., put in place. How do they keep on board with all the future developments that are happening within cyber security risks?
We have a designated, like you say, cyber security officer. They will have access to a range of training events or, you know, be part of networking groups that will keep them informed. They'll be part of government-led security frameworks and meetings and things. So they'll have a range of tools that they'll be able to deploy to keep abreast of current issues.
Happy with that, Councillor Hayden? Thank you. Any more questions? Any more? Sorry. Sorry.
I was just going to add to that. We get information through Barclays and our various kind of contractors that we work with in terms of cyber security and fraud awareness and that kind of thing. There's a training event on in Farrington soon, which I know some members of our finance team are attending. So there is various stuff that comes through from the organisations that we contract with as well.
Any more questions, observations, points of interest from the committee? No? Right. In that case then, obviously we'll note the report and we need to vote on the approval for the deferment of the Treasury Management Review as explained by Jackie in her preamble. Sorry.
Yep, I'll propose that, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Clifford. Seconders? All in favour? And I'd just like to thank the internal audit team for a very, very in-depth report on the items that they did pick up on. I don't know what we'd do without you. Probably have shorter meetings. And we'll move on to item 6, the Governance Committee Effectiveness, pages 97 to 108 on your papers. The item is for us to consider and note, and Dawn will be presenting this.
Thank you, Chair. So the report you have before you today is the annual review of the effectiveness of the committee against the guidance issued by CITFA back in 2022. So it's an annual review. We last presented the report in November 23, and at that time we identified a number of actions that needed to be carried out. We needed to align our terms of reference to the best practice guidance. We needed to consider the appointment of independent members, and we needed to do an annual report to Council. So all those actions have now been addressed. So we've carried out the review again. And this report clearly demonstrates that the committee is now operating in line with the standards set out in the best practice guidance. So there are just 2 actions arising from this review, and that's assessing the skills and knowledge of the committee. So it's really important that although we do ongoing training, that the committee keeps abreast of current information and changes that are going on. There is some training lined up already, so there's risk management training planned for March, and I know there's discussions about treasury management training. So we're going to let those training events take place, and then we'll issue the skills and knowledge assessment again, and then we'll consider the training needs going forward of the committee so that we can put together a comprehensive training plan. The only other action related to the appointment of the independent members, and that's progressing. I believe that there's a report going to full council in March, and then hopefully the members will be able to start attending meetings from May onwards. So it's a good news story. The appendix attached sets out how we're meeting the standards, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Dawn. Councillor Clifford.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you for that report. Really just a couple of things. I know in our pre-meeting we've discussed the training that the Chair's recently undertaken and the Vice Chair's done. But this is something I'd almost like a recommendation to go from this committee to council. And apologies to anyone who may be desperate to, to get off this committee. I would never know why anyone would. It's a fantastic committee. But stability is very important with governance committees, to actually keep that, because you build up a knowledge base. When you first start on the audit committee, you're in halfway through the year, and it takes quite a bit of time to actually get that knowledge. So when you've been on 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, it all builds up, and to keep that core on the committee is really important. So I don't know the method, but if we could actually have that as a recommendation from this committee, I'd like to propose that, please. Thank you.
I'll be more than happy to second it, but I would suggest it's up to the rest of the committee, excluding myself, to sort it out with your group leader.
Thanks, I do agree with what Mark said, and I just wondered whether or not it should be on your risk register. About the changes in the makeup of the committees and how it might affect your impact of skills and training.
It's absolutely right in what Councillor Clifford said. It is key that we have that stability in the committee, because, like you say, knowledge does build up over that period of time. And it is a difficult committee to come into mid-year, because at the start you're presented with a whole year's worth of reports, and you've got to try and understand the accounting side, the audit side, and you know there's lots to take in. So it's key.
Thanks, Dawn. Any more questions? Any more comments anyone would like to make? I mean, it is galling that we can never get a yes for question 1, isn't it? But I don't think we're ever going to. Right, again, that item was for noting, so we'll move on to the next item, which is item 7, the annual governance statement, management actions update, pages 109 to 114 on your meeting papers. Again, feedback and noting, and I'll hand over to Taz.
Thank you, Chair. So at the meeting of the Governance Committee in July, members wished to be provided with an in-year update. So here I am. So within the report, you'll find that there has been progress made with the management actions to date, and as Chair's already noted, that it's something for noting only. So I have in the actual table within the report at paragraph 8, you'll find that there are 14 actions which were agreed for implementation, and out of those 14, 4 have already been implemented, and the others are actually ongoing. I know there is a box which states either whether those actions have been implemented, either yes or no, but actually what it should say is against the nose, it should be an ongoing thing. So actually those actions are ongoing, and it is likely that those actions will be implemented by the end of the financial year. So we are on route to get those actions finalised. Yeah, so unless unless members have got any further questions from me, that's a report. It's just for noting.
Thanks, Taz. Councillor Green.
So just clarify that. So all those management actions and progress, so they're all due for completion by the end of the financial year. Is that what you're saying? Is it?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Wondering if we did have the discussion before and perhaps suggested things like the traffic light system might be more accurate rather than a straightforward black and white yes or no. It would make us look better, wouldn't it?
I'll take that on board, and so the next time we do a report like this, we'll use that.
So just on that, just sparked a little thought there in terms of also as a ranking in terms of whether all those actions are equal. So I just wondered whether if you had a ranking of those actions, you would focus on those that contain the biggest risk. So in the financial year, you would address, you try and make sure you got those done first of all, and then the lighter ones would, you could maybe flex it a bit. But I just wonder whether that was something to possibly consider as well.
The actions, like the report says, come from the annual governance statement, and we go through quite a robust process to identify the actions. It's not a case of ranking them in terms of importance, because for them to appear on the annual governance statements, they are important, of equal importance, I would say, covering different aspects of where we need to make improvements. I think the important thing to note is none of these are control failures or weaknesses. It's strengthening our control environment. So we're enhancing what we have in place. And these are what we've identified that we need to do to further enhance what we've got in place.
Requirements. So how, is that across the board? Because that seems to be quite a significant one in terms of awareness of how to manage projects.
What we have in place, we do have a project management framework in place that we can evidence that when we've done reviews in the past that it is being used, and we have robust arrangements in place in terms of a programme board that monitors corporate strategy projects and the use of the framework and all the rest of it. What we're suggesting is, in this instance, you know, we need to, it's actually been reviewed and is going to be updated, and then training, it will be relaunched so that the awareness is much wider of the framework. So there is already a framework in place that's being used. It's to enhance those arrangements.
Okay, Councillor Green. Yep. Any more comments, questions from the committee? And sort of, given that Taz has presented this, I would also like to ask our independent members whether they have any observations to impart.
Its actions will be completed by the end of this current financial year, and that, although it's a black and white yes or no, it's very clear from the report that things are well in hand. And I understand exactly what Dawn is saying. If something comes onto this, it's important, and it's not a traffic light system. It's there because it's there.
Thanks, Charlotte. Thank you. Every different colour under the sun. Yeah, I think as we said before, if we were to revert to something like a traffic light system, it would help us identify a little bit more, you know, what the situation is, rather than a straightforward, oh yes, it's there, or no, it hasn't been done. I think, and as I said, she'll look into that. So, thank you very much. Right, no more questions. We'll move on to item 9, which is the work programme. Oh, sorry. Oh, how can I forget? Oh, we will move on to the most important item on the agenda. Item 8, the RIPA application.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm pleased to inform you that actually there are no RIPA applications that have been made. So yeah, we haven't moved on any further since the last time. Thank you.
Thanks, Taz, and thanks, Mark. Good job it wasn't important. We'll move item 9 then. The work programme, pages 115 to 16. Again, this is for noting, and just to highlight the comment that these may change over the year depending on circumstances, probably from Dawn and Co. Pretty straightforward. I have no urgent business as far as I'm aware. So that concludes the meeting. The next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday the 19th of March 2025. Thank you everyone for your time.